Welcome to the fourth episode of ML Backstage. My name is Mars Luna.
And I'm Ethan.
And we're introducing this podcast straight from the sixth dimension.
You know what? I'm actually gonna join in on this one. I'll be right back.
Okay, bye then. This is a music commentary podcast hosted by my favorite Earthlings, Holokahiki Toves, Kainalu Kamai, and I suppose Joshua Luna as well. Anyway, they're continuing to go over the backstory of my first album, Lost in Space. And if my guess is correct, this episode is about to be real emotional. Citizens, grab your popcorn and let's get started. Back to planet Earth we go!
What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of the ML Backstage podcast. My name is Joshua Luna, and I am here with these two hammers right here. To my left. Sorry, I'm using a different thing here. Holokahiki Toves, and on the bottom of me, it's Kainalu Kamai. And how y'all been? How's your month been?
Yeah, it's been actually for me, it's been really good. I started actually really great. Actually, I started taking photos and video for my Tahitian group, and we're actually on Instagram now.
Let's go.
So it's getting the creative juices flowing once again.
There we go. Nalu, what about you?
Just wrapped up my 2-week annual training for the military on the military side. Just pretty much haven't really done anything from my civilian side, so this is our last day. So kind of getting back into normal life. I'm just glad to be done with this, and now I can just do whatever after.
Easy money.
Let's go.
Yeah, but yeah, I've been life's been pretty interesting for me over the past couple weeks or so, and it actually ties into exactly what we're talking about today. I've been doing a lot of soul searching. I actually went through a whole depressive episode throughout the last 3 weeks of June, and now that I'm actually being productive with Mars Luna stuff again, things have gotten better. And it's weird that my depression sometimes has to deal with how productive I am, but I mean it shouldn't be that way, but it is what it is sometimes. And the funny thing that happened today was I was at Trader Joe's with my mom, because my mom is in town right now, and I saw my community group leader from my church standing in line, and then like a couple hours later at Costco, I saw my pastor and his wife and their kids, and like I saw like some of the most important people in my church like on the same day in different locations, which is weird, because the funny thing is I actually kind of saw that coming too. Like I was like, if I saw one person here, I was like, oh, it wouldn't surprise me if I saw somebody else at one of the other places I was going to. So some weird trippy stuff, but yeah, life's been a roller coaster. It's been interesting, and I finished all the vocals for the Mars Luna album last week, as well as the photo shoot for the next Mars Luna single that's coming out next month. So a lot of stuff. But anyway, we're gonna continue on with the Mars Luna album, Lost in Space. Any Vegas people want a shirt? Let me know. I got you. And we're gonna talk a little bit more in depth about it, since we talked about it from a surface level on the last episode. So I'm gonna talk about the origin and the concept behind Lost in Space. Lost in Space, the name, it wasn't something that I thought about as it's pretty much a common theme with everything creatively for me. Is like I don't have to like really think about it too much. And Lost in Space was kind of like, it was a reflection of the actual season of my life when I wrote the songs for it. Since Mars Luna is a very intergalactic name, I decided to kind of keep it within the theme of, Lost in Space. It's kind of like it's a common phrase, but it was it was very much an actual reflection of where I was in life. I came up with it, I think, after we did the photo shoot for the smoke bomb photo shoot that we did. And it was kind of like, this is the name of the album. You know what I'm saying? Not a whole lot to kind of think about. And just kind of like Lost in Space was about like me kind of just navigating through life and navigating through certain seasons of like not understanding certain things, or like, why do things have to be a certain way? Or like, why are things happening the way they are? You know what I mean? Instead of being like lost on Earth, you know, it's Mars Luna, so it's lost in space. That's basically the origin and the concept behind the name. And the last episode we talked about the events that happened before the Lost in Space release happened. And now we're going to talk about like the shows that transpired after Lost in Space dropped, because there were a lot. I believe I performed like every month after Lost in Space dropped. Lost in Space was kind of like an indie rock record. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of like different types of singer-songwriter type stuff on there, as well as a little bit of R&B, a little bit of pop, but mostly like indie rock and singer-songwriter stuff. The shows that I played to promote the album were with rappers, which is kind of a weird mix, because like a lot of the shows I did, you know, I was like the only singer on the bill, you know, so I was like, are you sure you got me on the right thing? You know what I mean? But it was cool because I got to share my stuff, my music with a different audience that I didn't think I was going to share it with, you know what I mean? So I think I believe I did a couple of shows in April. There were like coffee house type stuff, as well as shows, you know, with a bunch of rappers on the bill. So there was like no in between there. During this time, I also formed a little band for a short amount of time called the Supernova. It consisted of my good friends, Angelo Mungi, who I mentioned in episode 2, my drummer friend, Ryan Castillo, and Morgan Wright. Morgan was the bass player, Ryan was the drummer, and Angelo played the electric guitar, and I played the piano. And it was I don't know if it was a one-time thing, but it was kind of like we were trying to prepare a band for the official release show, which was like 7 months after the album dropped. We played at this place called Unit 246, or Warhol's Loft. That location actually shut down now, RIP. And I played with a rapper who goes by the name Lowery, Kyle Lowery. He has the same name as an NBA superstar from the Toronto Raptors, Kyle Lowery. And with my friend, I used to make jokes about it all the time, saying like, I made little promos with him saying that, how does it feel like being in the off season in Vegas and like not playing basketball right now? You know what I mean? Like, don't you have a game tomorrow? You know what I mean? Like those kind of like silly stuff like that. And yeah, like we kind of used that tactic to promote the show we did. And it was a fun show. It wasn't like a really big show, but it was like 40 people for a small space was pretty good. And that was like the only time that I really got to be the character Mars Luna. And by this point, from like April of 2019 to about November, December 2019, like I had to channel a different side of myself that, you know, in order to like fully entertain people, you know what I mean? And you, Holo, I remember you telling me that I embodied, like whatever project I put out, I embodied it. And that resonated with me because like, okay, I'm gonna fully like commit to, you know what I'm saying? Commit to the certain character or like a different side of myself that I normally don't show people. And I remember you, Holo, you gave me this I'm gonna transcend universes here. You hear Ethan during the intros, And Ethan is basically a stage prop that Holo gave me when I went to Hawaii in the summer of 2019. And I feel like he shaped the character of Mars Luna in a way that kind of elevated his game a little bit, you know. And Ethan's chilling. He's sleeping, so I usually just put a hat on him there. And I do want to ask both of you, because Nalu, I don't think you were able to see like Mars Luna, the character in person, but Holo, when I introduced this thing to you, how did you feel about it? Like, just be completely honest. And how did you feel about it?
You know, when you explained it to me, I was like, okay, you know, that I'm not used to,
Yeah.
when it comes to like, different people with different personas.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty out there. You can say it was very out there in space, unintended.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just when you shared it with me, all I could remember is how much you embody it, how much you wanted to become this character of yours.
Mm-hmm.
And to myself, I remember I told myself, okay, if he's sharing this with me,
Mm-hmm.
then this is something that he finds special. He wants to,
Mm-hmm.
Put it out into the world. So I did it. To be honest, it kind of came across a little off.
Yeah.
It's something different than what we was usually used to.
Yeah.
But he rolled with it, and I was like, oh, if he's rolling with it, man, I'm gonna hop on this train and roll with him too.
Yeah.
And look at you now, man.
Yeah. I mean, it was wild because I colored my hair for this, and I had red hair for like a good 9 months. I felt like I had to do it because I remember being my regular self.
Yeah.
I was getting called Mars, and I was, whenever I did shows and stuff, and it was kind of like, people knew, people in the music scene in Vegas, like they knew Mars Luna, and they insisted on calling me that because to them, the name was cooler, right? Because it's a stage name, and, it was just kind of like, it sounds like a real name, but I did not like being called that. That actually made me uncomfortable because it made me realize that if these people are calling me this name, and you know what I'm saying, and if they're truly if this is how they want to see me as, I had to find a way to separate Mars Luna from myself. You know what I'm saying? Like not in a way that's kind of like disconnected, but it had to be like a different side of myself in order to entertain people. And it's an out of body experience. Like every time, I put like stars and stuff on my face, and I put like the little like lip paint or whatever, like I knew I had to be a grander version of myself in that particular moment whenever I did that. And that's just entertainment 101. You know what I mean? Like you said, Holo, like it did feel a little, off, and it did take some time to get used to, but over time it's like, if I'm doing this, like I can feel free, you know what I mean? Like I can kind of do whatever and get away with it because I would look like a doofus anyway. You know what I'm saying? And there were some that absolutely loved it. There were some that were cool with it. There were some that were confused by it. And I wouldn't say it kind of set people off, but like at the same time, it was something I felt like I had to do with Mars Luna. And over time, like Mars Luna became something that detached itself from me, and it's just something that's like, okay, I'm trying to find this balance, like, because the Mars Luna thing, it is a part of who I am, but he's an extension, and he's not like, he's not just, it's not me, you know what I mean? So, especially in the world where everything has to be quote unquote authentic, right? But what is authentic though? You know what I mean? Like authentic in the sense of like authentic in a way that makes people feel comfortable, or does authentic really mean the real you? So I think Mars Luna challenged that mold of authenticity in the sense of like, okay, this dude is obviously playing a character, but is this a part of who he actually is? You know what I mean? And I think that's the part that threw people off. But you know, it was an interesting thing. Coloring my hair red was, you know, it was a lot of fun, even though like taking showers with the red hair was not, it was not fun showering with cold water. And, but just embodying the mold of Mars Luna and just escaping, you know, through him was fun. And like, I love the pageantry that, you know, that I went with, you know, like Mars Luna was very much inspired by David Bowie, in the sense of like, David Bowie was revolutionary because he portrayed a lot of characters throughout his career. And I felt like there weren't a whole lot of people doing that, you know. Maybe it was from a different era or whatever, but I wanted to, for Mars Luna, he was like the main inspiration. And here's another unworn sneaker. I copped those like a while back. Nalu, I wish you were able to see like Mars Luna in person, and I don't know, and he probably would have had a ball just goofing around with you and everything, but you know, military.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. So this episode is basically like an extended song recap, because I'm kind of talking about like the whole album in its entirety. So the last episode, I did a song recap on like the love portion of Lost in Space. And Mars told me that I completely butchered it last episode. So I'm going to do a quick little recap before we go into the life portion of songs from the album. And so going back to the love portion, we're going to start with track number 2, which is Didn't Know. Didn't Know. The original title for Didn't Know was called I Didn't Know Till Now. And I remember during recording, Morgan came up with the Didn't Know title and said that you should shorten this. And I did, and it just kind of stuck. And Didn't Know was basically about a situationship where there was a girl that I went to high school with several years after we graduated. She basically told me she had a crush on me, got my number through Instagram, and kind of just texted me out of nowhere. And I realized that she was interested in me, and I politely rejected her advances. And it was just like, I didn't know that you felt this way about me. You know what I'm saying? And Good Girl was basically it's track number 3. And we discussed this last episode where it basically analyzes 2 sides of a broken relationship, you know, from the guy saying that she ain't good enough for him, but then him looking in the mirror and saying that, oh wait, I'm not good enough for her, like I screwed up bad, you know. And that's kind of what Good Girl was about. The villain was a classic FU song, you know, like the thing that happens just before the breakup, you know, the climax before the split actually happens. That's track number 5. Selfish, which is basically the FU song after the breakup, and that was a rehash from Prelude. And How Can I Live Without You is basically, you know, how can I live without my loved ones? How can I live without, you know, this girl? And you know, it's a rehash from Genesis, and the line that started the whole song was, "You breathe life into me, now surely will never fail." And that was kind of that song. So and the reason why Mars said I butchered this was because he told me I forgot Nothing But Trouble, which is track number 4 on the album. And I meant to share this last episode, but I got caught up in the moment. Nothing But Trouble is essentially was the last song that I finished before completing the album. And my good friends Bradley and Andrew helped me write it. The line that started the whole song was I do the things I hate to do. And the funny thing is, when the song was done, that line was completely erased from the song. That song was like, it's kind of like a warning to the girl that's saying like, okay, like I'm warning you, like this is the type of person I am, and be prepared for what you're about to deal with. You know what I mean? And that's what Nothing But Trouble was about. And the life portion of Lost in Space includes the songs Open the Door, which is track number 1. That song is basically like the intro to the album, and I'm basically saying like, I'm opening the door, you know, this is what you're about to see, and you know, just be prepared for what's about to happen, and I'm about to be vulnerable with you right now. At the very end of that song, there was a little snippet of a conversation that Holo and I had. I don't know if you remember that little what is that little recorder thing that you had?
Yeah. I remember that. I think that was from our time to go. We went to Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We went to Walmart, and you were recording stuff, and just little sound bites, and I was like, you know, this actually works. Is it cool if I use this for something? And he was cool with it, and I still have that sound bite somewhere on my hard drive. Run, which is track number 7. It was a song that kind of talked about like, you know, I'm in deep, you know, stuff right now, and I just want to run from it. You know, it's like I want to escape from my own thoughts. I'm going insane right now, and I kind of just want to run away. You know what I mean? Like, I was in a really, really bad spot when I wrote that song. Drift, which is track number 8. I will discuss that a little more in this episode. But that song is basically about a situation that I had with God and church, and yeah, I'll go more into that later. Dwelling in the Cellar, which is track number 9. This song is about, I wrote this song from my dad's perspective on when he left the family for the last time. And I was trying to like go through his mindset and be like, okay, this is what happened. This is what led me to do this. But at the same time, I'm also feeling sorry for myself for the way I feel like I've been treated or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I forgive him. Mama Said, which is track number 10. The song is about, it's a song about my mom, and a song dedicated to my mom. Just kind of like, you know, mama knows best, you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of like, mama said it's for your own good, you know, and like sometimes like you don't want to listen to your parents or whatever because you think you know, you know what I'm saying? You think you know what you're talking about. But at the end of the day, like your moms always have that intuition, so shout out to moms, you know what I mean? And You're Right Here is a song that I'll go in depth in a little later as well. This is track number 11, but this song is about a good friend of ours who passed away, and this was my song that kind of that was dedicated to her. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about Drift real quick, because I'm gonna start off with the music video part of it. I remember we filmed this music video in two places. We shot this video, I believe, back in 2017, before the song was even done, and we shot it at Mokuleia and Pele's chair. I want to ask both of you, because both of y'all were there shooting. Well, Nalu was there for one of the days, but how did it feel shooting at Mokuleia and Pele's chair? If you can remember what happened during those times.
I'll go first.
No, either one of you. I know this was like 4 years back, so.
Yeah, that's
a lot of life happened.
I remember Mokuleia.
Mm-hmm.
I had the fitted band shoes.
Yes.
And I wasn't actually, wearing it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, hey Luna, you want a pair of shoes?
Yeah.
And I remember you found this spot. It was right near this dried out tree that we kind of hanged out, and I know you had ideas to, walk along the coast and have some shots right near where the water was hitting on the sand. And then you did you wanted me to shoot you going into the water, and then coming right up, as a I don't know if it was as a way of cleansing.
Yeah, I was trying to recreate my baptism. That's kind of what it symbolized. And basically kind of like, like this was a different way of life back then, and like things have changed in like 3 years since, or 3 or 4 years since then, and it was just kind of like, like I'm kind of like, yeah, this is an emotional song for me. And Morgan and I have had several conversations about this, because he was also in a very similar spot in regards to his faith. Kind of this, like with Pele's chair was basically another way of just, I needed to go somewhere sacred, you know what I mean? And Pele's chair was one of those things where it was just kind of like, it kind of symbolized, okay, like Pele is like, Pele is like Hawaiian god, right? And I'm talking about like, Jesus and, and God, and like about my faith at the time. And I remember during the Pele's chair day, I only had one ear that was working for me that day, because I remember when I went in the water at Mokuleia, that water was not clean at all.
Yeah, it wasn't clean. Yeah.
It was mad dirty, and a bug and a bug went in my ear when I did the baptism, and and I was just like, holy crap, like what happened here? You know what I mean? And so yeah, like a lot of the things that I did, the locations that I chose for that were basically symbolism and parallelism to my faith in God at the time, and it was not in a good place. I'll admit that right now, because like I went through, like, as far as like the context behind the song itself, Drift, like I went through some situations, and just to be clear, like all the things that I'm going to mention in this little story here, and I'll try to condense it to keep it as short as I can, they've already been addressed, and there's no like hidden, like back talk or whatever. Like everything that I'm about to say has already been said to the people that I needed to address it to. So yeah, so it goes back to 2016, where the church that I was a part of in Las Vegas, they were transitioning from being a portable church to operating in their own building. And leading up to this move into the building, like everybody in the church was really excited about moving, right? And like, oh, we have our own space now, like this is awesome, this is cool. And then like all of a sudden, like when I feel like looking back, when we moved into the building, I felt like a lot of people felt like leadership they did too much too soon, moving into and it kind of wore a lot of people out. And like the church culture at that time was very shaky, I felt like, and like it wasn't necessarily the healthiest place to be. We had, like, especially from the worship side of things, from the music side, we were kind of like shorthanded at the time, and we had the same people play, pretty much every Sunday with a few rotations here and there. And we had like Wednesday practice, and we didn't have a drummer that was available for Wednesday practice. And we had like rehearsals on Sunday mornings before 9 a.m. service and 11 a.m. service. And we had, during the 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. service, we also had to play for a bunch of kids as well while the main service was happening. So we were trying to operate like a big church, but we weren't there yet. You know what I'm saying? And it wore a lot of people out. And I was one of the people who was getting frustrated with the way things were running. And I remember the one defining moment that I had with this church. I will call this church Church One. During the second week that I was playing for this church, I introduced a song to the worship director at the time that my friend wrote based on Ephesians 2 verses 1 through 10. It was a great song. It was a fun song that I enjoyed playing at the time, and my worship pastor, he loved it. He loved the song. I showed it to him, and he kind of like he adopted it. He basically made it palatable for the church to sing. He gave it a title, but over time, and I introduced the song to the worship pastor in 2015, and over time in 2016, the worship pastor slowly but surely started to take the song as his own, and basically it got to a point where the worship pastor was planning on making an EP with the original songs that we wrote as a church, and he was planning on using the song that my friend wrote on one of them. And I was like, that's not happening. I don't think you have permission to do that. You know what I mean? And we talked, I called him out in front of everybody, the band that we had at the time, and he talked to me in private. And he was like, dude, I thought we were able to use the song for whatever. And I'm like, no, you didn't write the song. You know what I'm saying? We made it, we were able to use it for church, but I don't believe we're able to use it for our own commercial purposes, And at that point, I already told the worship pastor that I was already leaving for another church because of the frustrations that I was dealing with at the time. And it was just so convenient that the worship pastor brought it up right before I was about to leave. You know what I mean? And and that was kind of the thing that I realized is I couldn't trust him anymore. I don't hate him as a person. He's, I have no ill will towards him now, but it was just Doug, how can I take you at your word anymore? You're out here preaching to the congregation and telling people to worship Jesus, and yet I can't take you at your word. That's hard, So there were a lot of trust issues there. I felt like I was done dirty at the time, and lo and behold, a couple months later, my friend reached out to me on Facebook saying hey, I found my song on BMI, which is a song publishing company, and it was registered under another name, which ended up being my worship pastor. And I was like, what? Excuse me? He did that? Heck nah. I was so pissed. And this was this was the early part of 2017 when I was already at a different church, and I was about to storm through my former worship pastor's place and just confront him right there, you know what I'm saying, and go through the church offices. But I texted him, we were able to talk through it, and the worship pastor was able to talk to my friend, and they were able to square that away. But it's common sense, bruh. It's common sense, dog. You didn't, it could have been avoided completely, So that was where my whole frustration was. And it gave me some real hard trust issues with church leadership for a long, long time. Heading into the early part of 2017, I already moved on from church one, and the worship lead and the worship pastor director that was there, you know, he was basically confronted by my friend about using the Ephesians song for commercial use. And you know, the worship pastor and my friend talked it out, and they said it was a miscommunication and a misunderstanding. But dog, I don't see how you can miscommunicate that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just common sense. Like, if it's not, just because a church, you know, can identify with it, what the heck my friend's name is, you know, it's still my friend's song, you know. And it's just like, if somebody else took one of my songs and used it as one of their own without showing any respect to the original person who wrote it, then like, that was my whole thing with that. It just became a trust issue at that point. That was, you know, like, they were able to patch things up, and I wasn't able to really move forward from that until the worship pastor stepped down last year. So, you know, like I said, no ill will, you know, like, I don't hate him as a person or whatever, but like, just if I ever see him again, it'll be hard for me to take him at his word for anything. At this point in 2017, I was already the worship director at a church in downtown Las Vegas, and the main pastor at this church, I'll call this church Church 2. The main pastor at Church 2 was formerly the youth pastor at Church 1. So we've already had a connection from the previous church we were at before. And like, I came into this operation thinking that it was going to be the same thing as Church 1, but it's just like an offspring of it. But I realized it was not. It couldn't be further apart from that, you know. And it was like a very unorthodox, Church 2 was very unorthodox in the sense of like, the way they did church was different. It wasn't like the everybody sit in rows and, you know, everybody like sings and worships and all that stuff. It was more so, it wasn't like a preacher talking to the people. It was more so like the preacher or the pastor communing with the people. So it was like the pastor called it like table talk meets TED Talk type thing. So a lot of it was centered around a message, and everybody who was at a table was discussing the message. And, you know, it was a really cool, unconventional approach to church. And looking back at it now, like, it was exactly what I needed to keep my faith afloat. Because I was not, like I said earlier, I wasn't in a good place. And pastor at Church 2 championed me. He helped me navigate through every like situation that I went through in regards to, like, you know, I guess attacks from like the church community or whatever, because I didn't necessarily fit the mold, you know what I'm saying? And but I fit the mold at his church, and that was really cool to know that, you know, like, I felt seen and I felt like I was understood, you know. And it was I knew that this experience at Church 2 was never going to be permanent. It was always going to be temporary. And you know, like, during that whole situation that I had with Church 1, like, the pastor, I'll say his name, Jeremy. Shout out to Jeremy Martin, because we're still super tight to this day. And like, he empathized with me because we came from the similar situation before. And it was just like, okay, like, you know, like, these pastors and stuff, like, they ain't gotta be perfect, you know what I mean? They ain't gotta be like, you know, this superior authority figure, you know what I mean? It was like, he felt like he was one of us, and like I felt like I could be myself at this at church too. And at the end of like, and they even championed like Mars Luna, you know what I mean? They championed me like playing outside of church. They championed me playing at these like at the gigs and at these shows and gigs, you know, outside of church, you know. And I didn't know that was possible at the time, you know what I mean? And one of the things that Jeremy helped me navigate through was when I was questioned by Church Zero, which is a church that I went to back in Hawaii, about the way I was promoting the song Drift. And I remember like rolling out Drift through Instagram, and I was kind of posting like pictures of what my old church life was like, and kind of like lamenting on how things changed, and like, you know, and maybe it wasn't the best way to go about it, like looking back at it, but I went through it the way I did it anyway. And I was called out, you know, by a friend of mine. You know, shout out to Ryan Jacobs. Y'all know Ryan, right? Yeah. So he called me out one time and called me out about it, and we had a conversation because he thought that I was attacking, you know, the church's reputation or whatever. But, you know, but it really wasn't that. It was just more so like I was lamenting how things changed, and he got my point of view. He understood it, you know, and we were kind of like, it was kind of understood that, you know, things changed, and like, you know, there's a reason why like I'm expressing myself the way I'm expressing myself. And that was pretty much like my whole struggle with like church life before. It was like I felt like, yeah, like I felt like I couldn't express myself in the way I needed to because I was held to a certain standard. But the thing is though, like, we're all growing. We all have our own journeys. We all have our own paths that we go through. And, you know, God has us all in different paths. He has us all in different like walks of life, right? And that was basically where I was at when I tried to communicate with Ryan. And it was just kind of like, you know, he understood where I was coming from, and it was an amicable conversation. And I ended up and then shortly after, like the pastor at Church Zero who discipled me, the one who ran the college ministry that I invited you guys to like years ago, if you guys remember that.
Is that someone's house? Yeah.
Yep. It was at the Palumpos house.
Yeah.
And I invited both of you actually, and you know, it was an interesting season, but basically the pastor, Jay, he shout out to Jay Palumpo. We still have a you know, we have an okay relationship, you know. He ended up confronting me about the same thing as well, and we talked about it, we talked through it, and basically, like, from the conversation that I had with Jay and Ryan, the issue was never with them. It was never with the church that I was back in Hawaii with. It was just, you know, the experience that I had with Church One, and it made me like really question a lot of things, because it was just like, wait, hold up, like I'm supposed to like look up to y'all, you know what I mean? But it just made me realize that they're human, that, you know, authority figures or church leaders or whatever higher figure, you know, like we're all human too, you know, like we're all prone to mistakes, we're all prone to falling short, but I just wasn't gonna allow that as a cop-out, you know what I'm saying? And I had to keep that same standard for myself as well, and that was kind of like the gist of the conversations I had with Church Zero. And I haven't seen them since, you know, because of, you know, we're all in different stages of life. So Jeremy from Church 2 helped me navigate through those situations. And I felt like I grew and matured through those experiences, and like what it meant to really go about things the right way and being direct but still being tactful, and just not trying to go after people's throats, you know what I mean? Like just, or go ham on people. And yeah, like Jeremy championed me, and he embraced where I was at with my journey. He's like, look, you don't have to appear like you're not like a traditional worship director at like a regular church. Like this is like I'm running it the way that God saw it, told me to lead this, and you're the perfect person for it. And I've had a band at church too that kind of like didn't understand, the way I was doing things, but it was only because like I was following instructions, you know what I mean? And I made up with that band now, and I'm grateful that I was able to make up with them, you know what I mean? And just, I did not burn any bridges completely. And I stepped down from being the worship director from Church 2 in 2019. I had to have a hard conversation with Jeremy, and my faith was still like, I was still trying to figure stuff out with my own faith. And 2020 came around, and I couldn't go to church anyway, you know what I'm saying? And we were all kind of trapped in our own homes, or couldn't really go nowhere. And I was about as far away from God as I possibly could be at that point. I wasn't doing anything stupid, but I just wasn't really thinking about faith or church anymore at that point. I was just kind of like, I'm gonna just focus on music. Like this season of my life, I think, is over. And like everything that I said about my baptism and stuff like that, like getting baptized, like it made me realize though that during this time that my faith was, my thing was never about questioning God, but it was about, it was more so about the leadership. That was like the thing for me. It was like, and I had to realize that over time. It was like, no, like I still believe in this, even though like I felt so far away, you know what I mean? And for Church 2, it kind of it was kind of kept afloat for a while, but in 2021, Church 2 shut down, not due to COVID, but due to some politicking and stuff like that. And because of their partner, the church that they were partnered with, split with Church 2. And I know this is like a really, really weird conversation for both of you guys and for people who are not involved in church world. But yeah, like some behind the scenes stuff happened, and it was all amicable, you know what I mean? But politics is very prominent in church world as well. It's not any different from like from the regular world, because politics is basically the way things work. And because of that, like Church 2 shut down on their 4-year anniversary, and the timing was actually pretty cruel. I'm not gonna lie, but it meant to happen the way it happened, and it was a beautiful end to a beautiful time, and that's the way I look at it. And it actually led me to, I was after that ordeal was done, I already was in a groove in going to church again in 2021, because I went back to Church 2 for the last couple of weeks before they closed and played for them to kind of make everything, to have everything come around full circle, and I started checking out like different churches just to kind of explore and see. So I went back to Church 1 for a week because I wanted to kind of see how things have changed, and like, and it made me realize that I wasn't gonna go back there ever again. And one of the other churches that I checked out is actually like right down the road from where I live. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just check this out. And if I don't, I have a good feeling about it. And if I don't like it, I can just live my life, And I went, people embraced me there. You know what I mean? Like on the second week that I went, and like I built some actual like real divine connections at this church, and you know, and it's been a blessing to me, you know, and God has used this church 3, to bring me back to Him again, you know, and just kind of renewed my faith and reinvigorated it in a way that it hasn't been before. And like I realize now that every church trauma, every church hurt that I've experienced, and that every like deconstruction and reconstruction of my faith, you know, it made me realize that God is the one who's in control. Like He's the only one that's guiding my path right now. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like it's easily been the most favorite part of my year so far. And Church 3, after all these years of searching, I found my home. You know, shout out to the Hills. Look at the Hills in Las Vegas. Shout out to Liberate. Shout out to Shadow Hills. You know, it's the people I've met have been absolutely fantastic. You know what I mean? And it, you know, to those who are listening, and to those who are struggling with their faith right now, I just kind of want to say that, you know, God will never let you out of His grasp, even if you deliberately try to run away, even if you feel like you're too far gone. You're never ever too far gone for God to use you, you know. And all he wants you to do is to talk to Him, and that's literally what He told me. You know, I felt like God was distant for so long, and all I had to do was talk to Him, you know, and it's made a world of a difference, and everything has made so much more sense, you know. And I remember when Scott came to Vegas, and I haven't seen him for like 6 years prior. Like we were just catching up and talking in the car, and I randomly took him to the Hills, you know, and we were talking, and then like Scott was enamored with the campus, and he was like, yo, like this is like, he told me like, yo, like, this is home, bro. Like this is your home, you know. And I need that affirmation, you know what I mean? And it's just like, God works in really wild ways, and He worked in really funny ways in my life this year. And I just wanted to say that. And, you know, God can heal you through your church hurt. He can heal you through your, you know, trust issues and all the trauma that you have, you know. It's just, I just want to encourage someone out there who may be doubting or whatever. Like, I empathize with you. Like, I was in that same place, you know. And just talk to Him how you normally would, you know, talk to Him authentically and honestly, and, you know, that, and then He'll answer it in His time, you know. His time is always perfect. But yeah, like that's kind of like the whole backstory behind Drift. Like it's a really deep rooted song for me. And there was a lot of frustration, you know, leading up to the release of that song. And like hearing that song again actually makes me cry a little bit now, you know, because it's just like, man, I hate the person I was during that time. It makes me sad, you know. But speaking of more sad stuff, I'm going to take it to You're Right Here, which is the 11th song on the album. And this song was about our good friend Nalu's, Holo's, and even Scott's, and my good friend Holo. And she had like so backstory. Holo was a good friend of ours. Like she was like in high school, she was one of our best friends during our senior year of high school. And she was a person who was like vivacious and full of energy, and like she was a person who was like, you know, she was a really, you know, easygoing and very caring person. Like it didn't matter like whether, you know, how popular we were or we weren't in school. Like she was friends with all different kinds of people, you know what I mean? And we were blessed to be, you know, good friends with her during our senior years. And she was one of the first people who supported, you know, who loved my singing voice, and, you know, loved the fact that, you know, I could sing really well. And then, like, I slowly but surely brought her into the friend group. And I did, Nalu or Holo, did y'all know Hale before senior year or no?
I think so. If I remember.
I know of her, but
Yeah.
we didn't, you know, talk to her.
Right. But yeah, like, and then so Hale and her friend Natalie, they started hanging around me more, and like she started seeing like the people that I hung out with, which was you guys, you know what I mean, and then I think she became closer friends with you, Holo, and Nalu, and I found out that Hale was in the same math class as you guys.
Yeah.
And
Wild.
I think if I didn't take summer school algebra 2, I would have been same algebra 2 class with you guys.
I remember she was sitting on the left side of me, and then Nalu was you was on the right side, yeah.
Oh, right side. I think so.
Yeah, and he was always drawing in class.
Oh man, it would have been so fun. It's a whole. It was like a whole web, like of friends and stuff. Like, you know, I feel like it started because she started hanging out with me, and then like because Scott hung out with us, she started to reconnect herself with Scott again. You know, because Scott's situation with, you know, Natasha, you know what I'm saying, and yeah, like we all became like a really close knit group, and with Acoustic Sunrise and everything, and her Hale and Natalie coming out to our shows and stuff like that, and just like showing support, you know, like always wearing red and always wearing like the Acoustic Sunrise colors with, you know, with the black, the white, you know. And like, I don't know what my senior year of high school would have been like if it wasn't for her, you know what I'm saying? And you know, a couple of years went by, like, you know, after high school, like we all live our own lives, and we're, you know, we drift off from time to time, but we were always going to be, you know, if we ever needed each other, you know, like, you know where to call. And I didn't, like, her death, honestly, or her passing, honestly, hit me pretty hard. And I think it hit all of us pretty hard.
Yep.
And all three of us could probably say that, because she passed so young, you know, and she was only 22. And that was like one of the other things too. It kind of attributed back to like my faith situation. And I remember like playing worship on one of the Sundays, and the Sunday after she passed, like I couldn't contain myself. Like I was singing these songs and I was just crying, you know what I mean? It was just like, and I didn't feel comforted in any way. You know, it was just like, sorry that happened, like, but we got to continue. You got to move forward. And it was just like, okay. You know, I got to soldier through this, you know. But it was just like, I thought she was going to make it. You know, I thought Hale was going, I thought she, you know, she inspired the way that she handled her battle with cancer so well, you know, and she was soldiering through it, and she was fighting through it, and her faith got stronger because of her battle, you know. And I think, you know, that looking back at it now, like that inspires me now. But back then I was like, I had like big survivor's guilt, like man, what, like, why does, like, if I could take her place in a heartbeat, I would, you know. It was like one of those things, because I didn't know if I really wanted to live at that point anymore. And it just, you know, I think before I process my thoughts with Hale, if either one of you could talk to her right now. I know it's been 5 years since she's passed, and in some cases it still feels like it was yesterday. I still remember like where I was and what I was doing, when she passed. And I called you, both of you, about it, and I think I called Scott too, just letting him know that being the bearer of bad news, like Hale didn't make it. I was like, oh gosh. If there's anything both of you would like to say to her now, what would you say to her?
I probably would share, the person that I become. Yeah, I'm not that regular shy kid anymore, or the one who wears these baggy clothes. But yeah, she was always, very compassionate to our friend group, and it's just that energy that she brought to the group kind of resonated within her, and it trickled down to all of us. And when we heard that passing, you kind of in tune with yourself, like all that memories that we had with her, and most of those, I would say all of those memories are happy memories.
Yeah.
And it's when you think about Hale, she's very radiant, and her energy is always loving. And if I was to speak with her, I would share all the experience that I had with her, even experience with myself, all the achievements, all the self-achievements, professional achievements. She was always there, to listen to us, and she was always ears, and she would always speak her mind too. And it's just her presence, when she came to us, at G Building, she always, greeted all of us, welcome all of us.
Yeah.
She always had like a little nickname for all of us. She had like this little, side joke with all of us. So she just flowed in with the group. And, when her passing was all sudden, for myself, I didn't know how to process it, because when Luna went to call me and I heard, what happened, I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah.
It actually took a couple of days for it to process. But yeah, she's a wonderful human being. We're very compassionate. Very grateful to have her in our lives.
Yeah, even if it was for a short amount of time. You can't underestimate the impact for sure. Nalu, what about you?
Ooh, there's so much things going on. I can try to process and see, but the funny thing is, since you brought this up, this whole thing came up a few days ago on Facebook on the memory section. I scrolled down to see, what did I do back in long time ago, and then just so happens Hale's video posted on my timeline, and she tagged me in it. I forgot what it was, but I think this was before she got cancer or something. I don't remember. So then I was like, I don't want to click this. I'm gonna feel sad. But then it just kind of reminded me, like, oh man, she's been gone that long, and it's like, what would she be doing if she was still here with us? I think she probably would be in this video chat right now with us, just chilling, maybe just having fun, hanging out with us, catching up.
She'd probably help you find your ABG. But that way.
She did that in math class. She was like, I don't know if she's trying to hook me up with somebody.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would be surprised.
It was like top on her list.
Yeah. I mean, she would help me with my situation as well. I'm not all, So
probably all our situations.
And that's how Hale got close with Scott again. You know what I mean? And it's just like she was she would have been that friend that helped us all with our love lives because because none of us got games. So
As you can see.
Sorry, hello, sorry.
No, I'm just playing, but I think like one of the things that Halea taught me was sorry, I'm trying to like not get too emotional. But I would say like she made me like stick to my promises. I remember I made a promise to Halea after we graduated that I was gonna put out a record, and she wasn't alive by the time I got to it, and when she passed, like it made me realize that man, like she lived, like even though she passed at 22, like she lived like a pretty full life, you know what I mean? And it made me her passing activated me to actually pursue music seriously and see where it would take me, and I don't know how she would feel about Mars Luna and how he's presented, but the music is always, the music is always going to be honest, you know what I mean? And I think she would love the music part. And I sent the song "You're Right Here" to her family on Facebook, and they loved it, and her mom messaged me like saying that she always loved your music, and like she would be happy that you're pursuing, you're at least taking it seriously, you know what I mean? And you only have one life to live, and you don't want to live life like regretting that, oh man, I wish I could have done this, or like I wish I could have did that, and I hope that she's proud of me, I hope that she's proud of us, I think she would be happy that we're tight as ever, you know what I mean? And the last conversation that I had with her was on Instagram, and it was a picture of the three of us when we hung out during powwow week, and we were jumping in front of that truck or that little van, and she said that she missed us, and I told her, I was like, oh, we miss you too, like I'm back in Hawaii for like a little bit, and then we caught up a little bit, and then that was the last conversation that we had, and I hope that I'm fulfilling the promise, fulfilling the promise that I made to her, and just it's been nothing but good memories, with her, with even with choir that she made choir fun for me. We had human physiology together, and we helped each other with homework, and going through like Skype calls and stuff like that, and sending each other like little letters and stuff like that, and it like friendly letters. It was, I gotta find those letters again someday, and I'll probably show them to y'all again. And like she was such a radiant presence, and I can speak for the three of us, and even four, I mean, including Scott in here as well, like such a radiant presence in our lives. And I wouldn't be doing music, I wouldn't be pursuing it more seriously if it wasn't for her. So I hope she's proud of us, And Hale, where if you wherever you are, I hope we get to see you soon someday. And yeah, and it always reminds me to, and like with all these experiences that I just mentioned, it reminds me, that Mars Luna's motto is to embrace your Odyssey and embrace the strange, or as Mars would like to say, embrace your Odyssey and embrace the strange. But yeah, that if I were to have a tattoo on anywhere, it would probably be embracing your Odyssey and embracing the strange on both forearms. And it's basically so with Mars Luna, it's just like the embracing your Odyssey and embracing the strange is for Mars Luna, it's basically to embrace his essence. I'm gonna be me, I'm gonna be strange. This is what you're getting. You can embrace it or you can just leave. That was that quote from his perspective. But for me, it's a lot deeper. I would probably say, like, embracing your Odyssey does not necessarily mean that the process is going to be joyful. Like embracing the hard times, embracing when things get difficult, embracing things that you don't understand, because that's what faith is. Like, faith is believing in something that you're not unable to see, and like having faith that things are going to be okay, having faith that things are going to work out the way they need to. Like, things may feel strange, things may feel weird, but everything is meant to work out the way that it's supposed to. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically what embracing your Odyssey and embracing the strange means for Mars Luna, as well as myself. At the end of every podcast, I always ask our co-host 1, 2, or 3 questions that kind of relate to the episode's concept or the album's concept, and seeing like all the life lessons or questions that can be applied. You know what I'm saying? So my 3 questions are: what is the meaning of life in your opinion? What makes life worth living? And what do you want to accomplish in life before your time on Earth is done?
Damn.
Back at it again.
Oh, shoots. My thing is on, so I guess I'll go first.
If you want to go first, you can.
No, okay, yeah, I'll go first. What is the meaning of life?
That's deep.
Sheesh.
I mean, like you said in the last episode, there are no wrong answers.
That's true. It's everywhere. That's so many things. But in my perspective, the meaning of life is you have a purpose on Earth or wherever you are, and you're carrying out
there are people on Mars too.
Yeah. Hey, Mars Luna, right?
or Venus, you know what I'm saying?
But so I believe everybody has a purpose in life on Earth. So everybody goes through their birth and then their growth, and from then on, it's up to you, or if you were chosen a path, you live that path, or anything you were given to just live it out throughout your whole life. Or if yourself wants to try something, then you'll live your own path instead of having somebody choosing it for you. So there's different ways you can go about this. Mm-hmm. Basically, to me, it's every living being is gonna live and die eventually.
Yeah.
But from in that segment of their life, they'll accomplish a lot of things, or many things, maybe more or less than others, some good, some bad. So there's a mixture of so many things happening, and it's kind of unique in a way just to see different perspectives of people's lives going through time and age and so on and so forth. I guess that's kind of like a semi-scientific way, but that's kind of how I see it. Is just everybody has some kind of life going on, and they're just living it from start to finish. And an example is ourselves. So we all have our own lives that we're controlling, and we're just trying to do our best to either hold on to it, try to do something new, maybe go a different path than we're at least not used to or unexpected to, and just hopefully it just works out in the end and does something good maybe to others, or who knows, our kids or future families and such. I guess that's kind of how I see it in a way.
That's good.
And yeah, that's a hard topic.
Yeah, no, it's a very broad question for sure. What about I guess we'll just answer them one by one then, if anything. Yeah. So we'll just start off with that first one.
What is the second question?
The second question, second question is, what makes life worth living?
Oh shh.
And again, this is all up to interpretation. So
we can say a lot of stuff from my experience and point of view. So what makes life worth living is basically everything I've done so far, from beginning of maybe middle school to now. I've accomplished so many things, that even stuff that I never thought I'd be doing in my life. But my purpose of life or living is I've always followed my passion, my goals in life, and that's what kind of helped me stay on what I call a good right path to live a better future or tomorrow in a way. And I could go on more about that, but I think most of everybody knows the stuff that I love to do in my life and such. That's pretty much, I guess, how I would describe it.
I mean, finding the fattest barrel isn't also an acceptable answer.
That is, it's true.
Or finding, the one ABG that you've been looking for, that's also an acceptable answer. So
we'll talk about that another time.
But that's good though. That in all seriousness, that was a good answer.
Okay, and the third question.
And the third question is, what do you want to accomplish in life before your time on Earth is done?
There is so many things I could add to a list of goes all the way up there. I think the number one thing would possibly finding my place in where I really belong. I don't feel like I'm almost there, even though I feel like it's close. I want to be able to be in a position where I don't really have to worry about anything. I'm good to go. I can either go more if I want to, higher, or I could just chill, take a break. But that kind of ties in with everything I do, as in my career, my jobs, and so on and so forth. And I could save the whole dating, marriage thing,
maybe later down the line, because we covered that last episode.
Yeah, so that would probably be at the number 2 of my list.
For sure.
For in the meantime, things could switch.
Yeah, it all depends on where your season of life is, or where you are in that season of life. So I like it though. That was good. That was good. I can relate to the belonging part especially. And I think all I think I could say for all three of us, we weren't necessarily the most popular, people in school or wherever, because we were all different.
We just did our own thing.
We just did our own thing. But that's also why that's also why we were able to stay close together, because we were people who did our own thing, you know. And it was just like, it's a foundation of a friendship. But finding a place to belong is nice, you know. I won't deny that. Holo, what about you?
So for the first question, what is the meaning of life? Oh, that's very deep, but yeah, you know, real simple. I believe the meaning of life is a collection of experiences, good and bad, and a collection of lessons that are good and bad, that from start to finish, we are on our own timeline. And we're collecting all these experiences that is unique to ourselves and our perception. And through those experiences, we try to interpret the lessons that we gain from those experiences. And then we kind of filter out if it's good or bad. And then we kind of reflect upon it to become to become the person that God is here to mold us in.
Yeah.
So I think that's the
sure.
meaning of life.
I like it.
What makes life worth living? Oh, this is a very great question.
Thank you.
But you know, to just put it in like in few words as possible, what makes life worth living is finding your passion that drives you and fills up your soul, your soul, like a soul jar. Like everyone has a cup. You want to fill up that cup, you know, with things that you love to do, even if it's surfing, making music, photography. We do all these hobbies because we enjoy doing it, and that's like only one thing out of all these other billion hobbies or ideas that are given to us when we, you know, go throughout our life. And what makes it worth living is being surrounded with things that we find enjoyable, very interesting, and fills up our cups, fills up our soul, that we feel like we're making an impact to the community, to each other, to our families and friends. It's something that drives you, you know, that keeps you waking up each day for a new day. What drives you to go and do music every day, go into the studio, or even, you know, heading out to, you know, catch the fattest barrels that you want. There's always something that drives you. You just got to look for it. And once you got that drive, you just keep going at it, keep hunting it, you know, because it's that ecstasy. It's that flow that drives you. It's hard to explain in words. It's a feeling. And going off of that question, what do you want to accomplish in life before your time on Earth is done? Yet again, another deep question from Mars Luna.
But Mars Luna don't think like that. I do.
But yeah, you know, one thing that I wanted to accomplish in life before, you know, my time is done on Earth is real simple. You know, this build a legacy where when my time is done, the legacy of, you know, Holokahiki will, you know, live on, even if it's through photography, getting those shots, or even through music sound when I have my background in Tahitian dance and drumming. It's leaving a footprint in amongst all these billions of people's footprints on Earth, is to have that legacy live out when you are gone. They would see like this. They would see your own ideas has been interpreted differently from other people, because everybody has their own mindset. Everybody has their own views. And then I would say a close first to that main accomplishment is everyone that I meet, everyone that I shared an experience, or even just this like quick interaction, is to let them know that that I see them, that I hear them, that what they're saying is it matters. There's it's funny, it's weird that all of us, we have like a funny experience today when Luna was speaking about his experience today. He had a funny day, and then when he was going into another meeting, I was talking to Nalu and how his day was going, and we was laughing about it. But it's actually kind of crazy how today turned out, because for myself, I usually go do grocery shopping on Thursday because I'm off from work. And I don't know, I met like these 4 people, and they felt like they needed to be heard. And for myself, I have this podcast happening, right now at night in Hawaii. But prior to that, there was a schedule I had to follow to make sure I'm on time. But I'm just pushing out through my day, and then these 4 people come up through my Thursday, through my day, which is Thursday. And it felt like to me like I needed to stop and take the time to make sure that they are heard, even if it's how asking them how their day is, and then boom, they start telling you their whole life story, which can be kind of too much at first. But to me, it just had to take that time to slow down, listen to them, make sure they are heard, because maybe in their lives they're not not getting that affirmation or that attention that they need to really speak their truth from within. So just having that gateway for people to feel comfortable on speaking their own mind, and just basically sharing, because so much people share nowadays. Your story that's being shared, it gets lost in all these other the chatters that is happening. So it's good to have that one-on-one interaction or conversation, so they believe that they know their voice matters.
Yeah, that's good, bro. And like the thing too is that energy don't lie.
Energy don't lie. If you bring the right energy, you give the right energy, you get the energy right back to you.
It's all reciprocated. And like it's kind of cool that you're able to talk to those people, because I noticed that every time, like whenever I go grocery shopping with you, like you always, like I noticed that you always you ask like the like the cashier, like how is your day going, and like you have like these little stories that you do, but it's not like fabricated, you know what I mean? Like it's coming from a real place,
right.
So and people can see that. So like you said, like it can get overwhelming at first. Like, why is this complete stranger like asking me how my day is going?
You're like, well, what's happening?
What's happening? But like at the same time, it's like it all comes down to energy. Like that joint don't lie, So yeah, that was good stuff. I could relate to the answers from both of you guys. So I guess, you know, it's my turn now. What is the meaning of life? It's one of those things where it's like, I feel like I have a different answer for this for every season of life. You know, as you grow up and grow older, you know, and experience more things, your answer to this particular question becomes more defined, you know. So if I were to tell y'all like what's the meaning of life, honestly, I would say embracing your Odyssey and embracing the strange. Like that to me is the meaning of life. It's succinctly what it is. Like you're gonna go through a lot of different things in life, and that will mold you, that will test you, you know, that will build your character, you know, and your resolve and your will, you know what I mean? But it's all about like how do you respond to those situations when they come to you, you know. Are you going to be resentful or bitter? You know, like say when my parents split, like I was bitter for a really, really long time. And that was my first encounter with God, was that, you know, my mom knew God from like, you know, but when they split, like, how was I going to respond to that? Right. Like, I could have been, you know, I mean, I was bitter for a very long time, but I didn't respond very well at first. But like over time, like I kind of got used to it, and I used it, and you know, God kind of used that as like a character building type situation, you know. And that whole traumatic event made me who I am, you know, to a certain degree. And it's like, or even like the situations that happened, the church trauma that I went through, you know, like that was also like another test, you know. Like, am I going to blame God for what these human beings did to me, you know, or do I just realize that, okay, God is going to use this for, you know, for his glory and for my good, you know? So it's just like a matter of embracing the situations you go through. You don't have to be joyous through them, you know, but like it's embracing that as a growing opportunity, because it's just all for growth, you know. And that's probably the best way for me to describe the meaning of life, you know. And what makes life worth living? Like I mentioned last episode, like I'm a pretty melancholic person. Like I don't necessarily see myself as a super optimistic person. I try to see the best in everything. I try to see everything through rose-colored lenses, foreshadowing. But you know, it's just kind of like the people, for me, like I think the people that I have around me make life worth living, you know. And just surrounding myself with, you know, people with you know, good energies, with good intentions, people who want the best for me, and people who got my back, and people who, you know, who care, you know what I'm saying? And just like just giving people their flowers while they can still smell them, because you never know when things will change, or you'll never know when, you know, when our time on earth is done. Like, you know, with Holo, like I didn't expect her to pass away at 22. You know, I should have gave her flowers while she was still around. You know, I should have gave her flowers while she was battling, you know what I mean? You know, and not assume that, oh, she's just gonna make it, you know. And also like the type of experiences you go through make life worth living, and the lessons that you learn from those experiences, and the, you know, the thoughts and emotions that you have during those experiences as well make life worth living for me. So And what do I want to accomplish in life before my time on earth is done? I'll probably say, like with Nalu, when Nalu said about finding somewhere to belong was his main thing. And Holo saying just, just overall, like leaving a legacy of, of his, the embodiment of his life, and leaving an example for people to follow. I can relate to both of those like really, really strong. I think for me, the main thing that I want to accomplish before my time on earth is done is fulfilling my purpose, which is to reverse the generational curse that was set on my family. That's like the main one for me, because I know like what kind of history my family has, like more so my dad's side of the family, and what kind of people they are, and this is not shade, you know what I mean? But this is more so like, this is like for real. Like I want to set the standard for the next generation of Lunas to follow after me. I want to redefine what it means to be a Luna, you know what I mean? And it doesn't necessarily like with, as far as like the Luna side of my family, like I'm not close to any of them, we're pretty much strangers. And the name Luna in my family does not necessarily have a really high esteem, and I feel like I'm called to reverse to change the trajectory of the future Lunas, and I think that's one of the reasons why I have this strong desire to get married someday and to have children someday, because I feel like, I believe that, when it's time, like I'll be equipped to handle that, you know what I mean? And that's a big calling. And that's something that's like whoever my future wife gonna be, like she gonna be in for the long haul, because it's gonna take a lot of work, so I would probably say, yeah, just reversing the generational curses, because that's a real thing. And that's what I feel like I'm called here to do. And I pray that I'll be able to, God willing, I'll be able to accomplish that when it's done. So yeah, we've reached the end of the podcast. Appreciate you, Holo and Nalu, for doing this as always. And I wish I could have given y'all more room to talk, but appreciate y'all listening. And as well as the people, everybody who's tuning in, I appreciate y'all tuning in to this podcast. Check out the Mars Luna album, Lost in Space. I reveal a lot of my life on this album, and you'll understand more of the stuff I'm talking about on this particular record. So yeah, we'll go through all the social media stuff. I'll start off first. If you want, you can follow me on Instagram at Luna B Joshua. You can follow Mars Luna, my music page, on Instagram at It's Mars Luna, on Twitter at It's Mars Luna, and Facebook at It's Mars Luna. And you can check out my website at itsmarsluna.com. I got a new single coming out next month. It's a sad summer bop, so be on the lookout for that. Holo and Nalu, what y'all got?
Same thing as always. You can find me at Instagram on, let's see, right there. You guys, I'm too lazy to talk it, but here you go. Instagram here.
Nalu on photography.
You'll find everything else: Twitter, other Instagram accounts, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You can find me on my website. It's Holokahiki Toves.co. I have a lot of my thought journals. That's basically my photography page, but I do like a whole backstory of other ideas that I wanted to do outside of photography. Can I plug my my Instagram, or send my Instagram?
Go.
Yeah. So I've been inhabiting my Tahitian group Instagram. I think it was about for like almost a month we've been on. But it's at HERETAMANUI. Hede Tamanui is my family's Tahitian dance and drumming group. So I'll be inhabiting that Instagram. Oh, shout out to Luna bringing it up.
Heratama Nui, just in case, like people, just for spelling purposes, you know.
So I'm on there. I don't really, I'm on like the behind the scenes, but I'm just trying to help Hede Tamanui get their word out.
Yeah, gotta do what you gotta do.
Mm-hmm.
So appreciate everyone who's been listening and tuning in. I've seen all the people who've been following, and I appreciate y'all very much, and we appreciate y'all very much. And stay tuned for next month's episode. We do an episode every month. Next month we're going to talk about the Mars Luna EP Archeress and how 2020 has been for each of us. So stay tuned. And hope you all have a great rest of your night. And as Mars says, embrace your Odyssey and embrace the strange forever. Bye, guys.
What is the meaning of life, Ethan?
Life on Earth or in the sixth dimension?
Hope you all enjoyed this episode of the ML Backstage podcast.
You didn't answer my question.
If you liked what you heard, follow us on Spotify and Anchor, and subscribe to us on Apple and YouTube at ML Backstage.
This episode was emotional. I was trying to keep it together.
The album that the Three Musketeers talked about in this episode is Lost in Space by me, Mars Luna. You can peep that record on Spotify and Apple, and you can check out the Drift music video on YouTube. Anyway, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at It's Mars Luna. You can find all my music on Spotify and Apple Music and on my website at itsmarsluna.com. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Stay tuned for next month's episode. Bye!